Hello, everyone. My name is Gavin Bizzuto, and I'm not sure if I'm sharing right now. I am, right? Okay, we're good. Sorry. So, I'm a nutrition and dietetic student at Gateway Community College. This is the fourth presentation in a series of a handful of presentations my classmates and I have prepared for you all. Um, this topic is on legumes. Legumes are an excellent source of protein. A lot of vegans use them in their diets for when they cut out meat. They will replace the protein that they're missing with these plant-based protein, like beans. So, without further ado, let's get into what we want you to take away from this presentation. Um, we want you to be able to identify 2 to 3 legumes. That'll be, simple enough. Um, we want you to be able to identify 3 benefits of eating legumes in your diet. So, what eating this plant-based protein does for your body, what nutrients does it give you, and lastly, we want you to be able to use 2 recipes that include legumes. So these are going to be healthy recipes, but they also taste good and they're cost effective because legumes tend to be fairly cheap. So, getting into legumes in general, they are a plant based protein, a good source of antioxidants. They help you feel full longer, which is from the fiber in them. They're packed with fiber, which promotes healthy bowel function as well. Um, they are loaded in B vitamins, iron, calcium, zinc, phosphorus, magnesium, folate, and lastly, they are low in saturated fat. So beans are packed with a bunch of micronutrients that are essential to our diet, and the fact that it's a plant-based protein just gives it even more of a win. So let's get into more health benefits. So what beans do is they help improve your blood pressure as well as reduce cholesterol and ultimately lowering your heart disease risk. They promote weight loss because having something that's nutrient dense as well as something that helps keep you full longer, so improving your satiety, it'll promote weight loss because you're full for longer. You're not going to want to eat as much, etc. And lastly, it's high in minerals and fiber. And they are also really good for managing and preventing diabetes, which the reason for that is they're high in fiber, which not only promotes healthy bowel function, like we talked about before, but it's really important when it comes to managing blood sugar levels. Um, Fiber helps it keep it stable, excuse me, and therefore, it helps prevent diabetes because your blood sugar levels aren't spiking. The fiber kind of mediates that. And so some examples of legumes in general are, any kind of bean, such as the black bean, fava bean, frijole, negro, black beans, um, peas, lentils, Mexican black bean, mung bean, pinto, small white, Boston chili, field green, kidney, lima, Mexican red bean, red and soybeans. They also peanuts, and a lot of people wouldn't think that peanuts are legumes. They would think that it's a nut, which it is a nut, but it's also a legume because they peanuts actually grow in pods that grow underground, while other nuts tend to grow on trees. Um, so the way that it actually comes about being a peanut is the reason that it is a legume and not a nut, technically. So let's get into the purchasing. Dry or canned. So when purchasing dry beans, they are generally a better purchasing value. You'll be able to feed more mouths by buying dried, basically. You get more bang for your buck, if you will. They're less sodium than canned. So if you're someone that has maybe high blood pressure and you want to watch your sodium intake, dried beans are the way to go. And dried beans tend to taste better. Just it's usually like by preference. Some people like canned over dried because sometimes canned has, more sodium, whatever. But most people say that they taste better cooked when they originate from dried beans. Um, and for the people who don't know how to cook dried beans, the classic way of cooking dried beans is soaking them in a bowl of water, a bowl of like chili to cold water overnight in the fridge or on your counter, um, with a ratio about 10 cups of water per 2 pounds of beans, or you could make it 1 pound, like 5 pounds or 5 cups of water per pound of beans, pretty much. um, and soaking them overnight, which is about 8 hours. And then in the morning, you want to drain and rinse the beans when the time is up. Then in a large pot, bring the beans and water to a boil, and then reduce the heat and like bring it down to a simmer, and cover the beans until they're tender and firm, which usually takes around anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on the variety of beans. Some beans vary. So like something like a black bean takes about 60 to 90 minutes to cook. Great Northern beans take 40 to 45 to 60 minutes to cook. Kidney beans take 90 minutes to 2 hours. Navy pinto also take 90 minutes to 2 hours. So, you know, cooking dried beans has its benefits because it's lower in sodium. And, some people say it tastes better, but the process is longer, which is why when we talk about canned beans, we talk about convenience. They're a little higher in the sodium content because they're canned, and you could just wash some of the sodium out by rinsing the can and heating them, or heating them in a clear water, bringing them to a boil, and then it'll reduce the sodium content by a third. So it'll have like 66% of what it usually has, which is like okay if you're trying to watch your sodium and then you're just trying to go for convenience. Um, we say that we go for convenience because you don't have to go through that process of soaking the dried beans. Some people don't soak their dried beans, which is okay. You could just like toss them in, bring it to a boil, whatever, but it's better if you soak them. But um, when you're doing canned beans, there is no soaking process. There is no overnight soak or hour soak, whatever you want to do. And um, therefore, they're quicker. So if you want to put together a quick dinner, you could just rinse it out really quick and then, heat it up over the stove and you'll be boom, you have dinner. But, sometimes they can have a metallic taste and they are more expensive than dried because you're paying for that convenience kind of. Um, but like I said, it's better if you're throwing a last minute meal together. Oh, and not to get confused, dried and canned beans have the same nutritional value, but canned tend to have just higher sodium and are a tiny bit more expensive. So do what you will with that. So to get into the recipes, we have three healthy legume dishes for you. They contain a lot of plant-based protein, include all the benefits of beans, are very tasty and cheap recipes. So to start off, we have black bean burgers. These are a personal favorite of mine, and this is actually a home recipe that I do. So what you're gonna need about a pound of black beans, drained and rinsed, half a green bell pepper cut into 2-inch pieces, half an onion cut into wedges, 3 cloves of garlic peeled, 1 egg, a tablespoon of chili powder, a tablespoon of cumin, teaspoon of chili sauce or hot sauce, and then half a cup of panko breadcrumbs. And if the burgers aren't sticking well, add more breadcrumbs as you please. So the instructions: if you're grilling, preheat an outdoor grill on high heat and lightly spray the grates with Pam or another grilling spray oil. If you're baking, preheat the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit and lightly oil a baking sheet. In a medium bowl, mash the black beans with a fork until they're thick and pasty. And then in a food processor, finely chop the bell pepper as well as the onion and garlic, then stirred into the mashed beans. You don't really need a food processor for that, by the way. You could just chop them up as you please with a knife. It doesn't need a food processor at all. And then in a small bowl, stir together the egg, chili powder, cumin, and chili sauce. Stir the egg mixture into the or Stir the egg mixture into the mashed beans and mix in the breadcrumbs until the mixture is sticky and holds together well. Divide the mixture into 4 patties. If you're grilling, place the patties on foil, then grill about 8 minutes on each side. But if you're baking, place the patties on a baking sheet and bake about 10 minutes on each side. And then to top it off, I like to add, avocado and guac, sometimes cheese. Chipotle mayo is really good, red onion, all that. It's a really good meal. Going into the black bean soup, this isn't as intense or labor intensive. You just need a cup of chopped bell peppers, a cup and a half of salsa verde, 2 teaspoons of cumin, 2 cans of black beans, and half a cup of fresh cilantro chopped. What you want to do is add a tablespoon of oil, any kind really, vegetable olive, canola, sorry, and into a soup pot, and then drop the bell pepper into cook for about 3 to 4 minutes until tender. Shake the salsa verde jar to blend the ingredients, along then add it along with the cumin, stirring it to combine. Rinse and drain one of the cans of black beans and add it to the pot. Then add the second can of black beans and the juices. Do not rinse the second can. Um, Cover and simmer for 15 minutes on a medium low heat, stirring occasionally so the beans don't stick to the bottom. Add the cilantro, then use an immersion blender to pulse lightly until you reach the thickness you prefer. A standard blender or potato masher can be also used to thicken the soup. And then you have your black bean soup. Additional toppings could be peppers, sweet corn, sour cream or Greek yogurt, avocado, cheese, or dipping with tortilla chips. Lastly, we have black bean brownies, which are interesting, and I have never personally tried, but if you're someone that's really trying to maybe cut down on calories and want some interesting desserts, black bean brownies might be the way to go. So all you need are some black beans, you need 3 eggs, baking powder, chocolate chips, cinnamon, cocoa powder, granulated sugar, or if you don't want to use sugar, you can use honey, maple syrup, or coconut sugar, um, salt, vanilla extract, and some butter. So what you want to do is preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Place parchment paper in a 8 by 8 baking dish and set aside. Place all the ingredients except for the chocolate chips in a blender and blend until it's smooth. Pour and scrape the batter evenly into the baking dish and top the batter with chocolate chips. Bake in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes and let it cool for 30 minutes before slicing and serving. And then you have your black bean brownies. And lastly, we're going to talk about the resources that you can use to purchase the Legumes. So, of course, we have SNAP, and everyone knows about SNAP. And if you don't, it stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This is a program that will help provide a ton of budget space, or freedom in your budget, because they give you funds. It's funded by the federal government, and what they do is give you money each month to spend at the grocery store. And you could spend it on anything really, but it could be a good resource just for grocery shopping in general. We have farmers markets. Farmers markets are always good to buy fresh dried beans. Um, and lastly, we have Budget Bites. Budget Bites is an extremely budget friendly website that has a bunch of good recipes, um, that can help feed your family for cheap. Um, get a lot of servings out of the recipes. They range from anywhere from like $1 to $7 a recipe, and it makes a good amount of food, and it's usually looking pretty good. I've used a couple recipes off that website, and it first of all is cheap, and second of all, tastes really good. They are good recipes. So that's budgetbites.com. And that's about it for this presentation. I hope that you guys learned something, and we do have a handout included that will include all the recipes as well as the ingredient list and directions. We look forward to talking to you again soon, and thanks for watching.